Hey everybody, it's Rachel. Welcome to Not Safe for Wonks presents UNGIRL. Today I have Brandon Buchanan and Leslie Martin, two fabulous, wonderful people who you see a whole lot of. We also have John Leavitt, friend of the show, friend of the people, probably.
Friend of many people.
Cartoonist, good tweeter. And we are going to talk today with John about it. De Blasio getting a whole lot of really unearned credit, polls and how we use them. And also we are going to talk about whether we can trust polls, how we can apply them to our general political approach and process. And then at the end, we're going to rank Thanksgiving pictures for the worst scientifically using what we've learned. How's everybody doing?
This sounds like a lot of homework. This sounds like we're going to be working really hard today. I'm
frantically Googling in the background.
Yeah, I'm full. I just ate a lot. I just ate a lot of leftovers. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, we're all tired.
Do we trust? I don't know. Well, before do we trust polls?
Do we trust polls?
Do we trust polls?
Kind of. It depends on which poll, right? Oh, and before we get too far, I want to remind everybody we are launching our line of merch later today. It is Black Friday. Look for that tweet. It's going to be coming like any minute now with a link to our website and the shop page, and it's all getting launched, and it's very exciting. Okay, back on topic.
All right, well, let's talk about this thing with de Blasio.
Yes.
And already, I think we've had he's wearing a Clyburn t-shirt, and he's out on TV, and he's just doing this whole post-election thing, which I would think for as desperate as people were this summer, we've got to get Trump out. We've got to get Trump out. We all have to come together. We all have to have unity. As soon as these folks got what they wanted, all that unity crap went, down the toilet and out of a tube and out of a window and over a cliff and into the sanitation facility. It's gone. It's out of your house. You don't have to think about it anymore, because literally just like a couple days later, this is because Black Lives Matter, which is so funny because they just believe that you do not have any sense of history, like even recent history, because all this summer they were telling all the people who were out marching to go vote. But now that those people went and voted, statistically, like just scientifically, a lot of they all went and voted.
Right.
And it's like, screw these guys. They got in the way.
Right.
Of winning like conservative white people in Ohio and North Carolina and other just places that they didn't win. So, what can you do?
Well, like the astounding thing is that what we have now, mostly, like the benefit of this election, if any election can said to have a benefit, is that we now have more data on what does and does not drive voting patterns. And the fact that they immediately had ready to go, this is why the left cost us the election.
Takes?
Like pre-made, and they just had to hastily scrape out, cost us the election with, well, we didn't win enough.
Yeah.
And it's such obvious, transparent bullshit because, again, we now have proof. Everyone who didn't back down on Medicare for All won their primary. The only people who lost were those. Sorry, I don't speak out loud very much these days.
God,
John, do we need to have you as a guest more often for your mental health?
Yes.
Just to give you a reason to shave, give you a reason to turn a light on in there.
These are all my lights on. That's how dark it is here.
It's like you're broadcasting from the Phantom Zone. What happened?
No, I've internalized this sort of third man film noir political thing going on, and now I'm just constantly smoking in the dark.
All right, now it's your brand. This is how Batman got started. He was in a cave and he was like, "Guess I got to lean into this now." But anyway, go ahead.
But and here's the thing. We know that didn't happen, that, Black Lives Matter, burning down a police station drove more voters in Democratic's favor than pivoting to the right. Like burning down a police station was worth at least 2 points electorally.
Yes, and that is like my favorite thing about it is like people were energized by this movement, right? And that kind of energy is what gets people to show up. People show up when you give them something to be excited about and you give them a place to insert themselves where they can feel like they're actually helping people and saving themselves from something.
Yes.
You know, and when the best you have is a fucking milquetoast dipshit like Joe Biden, right? Or Bill de Blasio, you're not getting that kind of enthusiasm from people because everybody knows they're not going to save us.
Right. And
yeah, it becomes a purely aesthetic choice, which is what like mainstream elections have been for about 40 years.
Yes.
I think there's a consultant class that has never been so happy as they were with this election. And there are a lot of people who this represents just the peak of their political careers. You've got Joe Biden, a person who's, you know, has no really firm politics for this election, has no real firm constituency, has nobody that he's got to be held accountable to. Just because Trump's so bad, he was able to just sort of run against Trump. And people won't say this out loud, but there is just a class of consultants who would love to run against an existential, you know, they would love to run against Donald Trump every 4 years. And we know this because when Hillary Clinton ran for president and they leaked her memos, she was like, we'd really love to run against Donald Trump. That's ideal for us. We need the Republican Party to be just complete madmen as much as possible, so that we don't have to do anything and we can just be like, look at that. That's wild, isn't it?
But here's the thing. They didn't even reward Clyburn for delivering the primaries to Joe because they didn't put his daughter in the position she was asking for in the pack. Like, not only is it just like rank favoritism and position buying, they don't even support people who like support them.
There are just lots of people in the Democratic Party who just sold out and got nothing in return. Which, I mean,
look at
I'm kind of into it. I'm petty like that,
I'm not sad for them.
Yeah.
Who are the guys that are really in charge at that administration? It's our buddy from Delaware. It's Chris Coons. It's Chris Dodd. It's just all like the super dinosaur-y dinosaurs. And they all made all the staffing decisions, and they picked Kamala because they decided she would raise the least fuss. And it's funny.
And the Harris family is super well connected in California, and California is basically run like an Italian papal state.
Yes, the Pelosi's and the Newsoms, they're all related. Yeah. We had Adriel Hampton on the show and told us this whole state of California politics is basically Game of Thrones. And there's like 3 rotating monarchies and they're all married into each other. That was mind-boggling for me. Leslie, did you know that Gavin Newsom is Nancy Pelosi's nephew?
Wait, for real?
No, I didn't know that.
What?
I was
amazing.
Literal
nephew. But I was going to add, also add to all of the crap is the mainstream medias, the CNNs, the MSNBCs, the PBS News Hours. And I mean, like when you've got Chris Cuomo, who's boosting his brother in New York nightly, I mean, what do you expect? I am so sick of my generation and generations above me thinking that they have all the answers, but they're not looking beyond their own freaking noses. They look in their little bubble and what works for them in their elite world, and they can't see past that. And until we have, honestly, I think, until we have more news outlets that aren't mainstream, we're never going to get out of this shit, ever.
I think that the idea of mainstream information is dying out. I think in 20 years there won't be a mainstream to get. When we think of just how people under the age of like 45 get their news and information, they're not watching cable. We just know for a fact that the cable industry's dying out. We know for a fact the newspaper industry isn't staying afloat. There's just not enough human beings that are interested in it, like to sustain it as a business. Go ahead.
Have you seen the advertisements on CNN recently?
Oh, it's all targeted towards seniors.
Yeah, no, like every ad assumes you're in a hospice.
Yeah, and it's all pharmaceutical ads.
And it's all like really bad ads too. Like I remember when like on primetime television, you used to have like car ads, and now it's like, do you have an idea that you want to sell to an inventor? Like on prime time, like that used to be 3 a.m. stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, their target demographic is literally dying. So and they're not replenishing because everybody under the age of like 50 has moved on.
The problem is not so much like, hey, are there enough news cycles and news sources for us to get that level of control? I think the real issue just is this turnover generationally going to happen before like the ice cubes start melting and human life is irrelevant? Like, are we going to have this social reform in Waterworld? Like, do we need to start farming the Waterworld DSA chapters? I don't know.
Yes, because the old guard is never going to let go willingly, ever.
Yeah, no.
It's horrible. It's bad.
And to that point, especially about the old guard and that thing I was screaming about, which is all this triumphalism by like the de Blasios and the Clyburns of the world, all this hollow victory that they're crooning about. And I and like other analysts are on the sidelines screaming, the Democratic Party has 4 years until it's no longer a national party.
Yeah, listen, I think that...
John, why don't you kind of defend that point a little bit? Because one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about this is I know you have really great evidence. What are sort of the... Yes,
the documents.
Show us your receipts.
Okay, well, there was that big interview with Schur, this big Democratic analyst, mind boy genius, who is a big stats guy, and he was saying like with every year the percentage of voters, like how powerful an individual vote is in a blue state, goes down by about 20%, just because of the way our stupid Senate is set up and the way like our population trends are moving. So that means that you're looking at a situation where even if there are more Democratic voters, because of the artificial cap on the House, because of the stupid way the Senate is appointed, because of the lasting effects of decisions made in 1835 regarding the territories, the largest party could end up completely shut out of government, and you'd have permanent minority rule by people who represent a tiny fraction of the government. And he says like there's really only one way around this that we could do, which is that we need to turn every territory into a state tomorrow. The Virgin Islands, Guam, DC, all of it. And that's just stopping the bleeding.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is like, the fact that we sort of arbitrarily delineate which far away from the mainland islands and territories actually get a vote is by itself kind of just racist nonsense, right? Like there's absolutely no reason Puerto Rico shouldn't be a state.
Hell, based on population, it should be 2.
Yeah, right, exactly. But, these are people whose primary language is Spanish, and God forbid we have a State of the Union that doesn't speak English, right?
Right.
Well, see, here's the thing that article didn't quite get to, because I don't know if he didn't want to say it or if it didn't realize it to him. He didn't realize it, which is that was the article that convinced me national level Democrats do not want to win because it's difficult and it's hard. People would expect them to do things. And it was this little anecdote he pointed out about how the biggest single indicator of lifelong Democratic voting is a college education. Not to turn into Matt Christman before your very eyes. But so I was thinking, if that's your single greatest determiner, like you can pretty much pinpoint people's lifelong voting records if they vote down to, did they attend college? Not finish, not get a degree. Did they just attend? So if you know that, and your big brain stats guy knows that. Why aren't you pushing for universal college?
Yeah. Well, the same reason why it's hard to get them to support voting rights and voting access.
Yeah, no, it's if
I have this.
The problem.
The worst part of it to me is based on the people I've organized with who think this way. They actually are true believers. Like a lot of them are true believers in this idea that you have to compromise for the middle to win, right? That you have to be willing to show this sort of symbolic willingness to cooperate with the other side.
Yeah, it's taking a dial labeled racism and checking it for applause, but that is some people's unironic political strategy.
Right, exactly. And these people seem to genuinely believe that, like, oh, you can't scare away the conservatives.
Right.
Which, of course, I believe is exactly why we've been in a steady rightwards march for the last, 50 years.
Well, I mean, we have a word for those people. They're called marks.
Well, the problem the problem is, in your reasoning, John, is there's something called the iron law of oligarchy.
Yep.
And when you talk about what organizations do, they preserve power for themselves, even when it harms the organization.
Right.
So when you talk about, well, wouldn't it be better for the Democratic Party if, there was universal education and universal access? Yeah, it would be good for the party, but it wouldn't necessarily be good for the people, the consultant class that currently runs the party and is in charge of the party. And so if it's not good for them, why would they support it?
Yeah.
And you saw this over and over again with, we actually had evidence, it was a few days ago, that voting reform kept coming by Pelosi's desk and she kept declining to fill it, which is odd because one of the things we also know is that if you make it easier to vote, more people vote and more people will end up voting Democrat because there's more Democrats. At least that's how the logic goes. But they always, always, always block national level voting reform. And that's because they don't want to screw up the patronage system, which is wild to me because we just detailed the patronage system doesn't work. It doesn't matter if you throw in your lot with the administration. They've already decided who's getting what.
Right.
Yeah.
You've also got to remember that this is financial. It's about giving big dollar donations so that you as the consultant can bank a lot of money at once. And honestly, television advertising is more exciting and better for donors.
You can bill someone tens of thousands of dollars.
Exactly.
You can't do that with a Facebook campaign, even though we know Facebook campaigns work.
And you also can't do that with canvassing.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about any sort of nonprofit or NGO or really anything where you're fundraising, and we deal with this on our show, it's just normal. People want to see the thing that they're spending money on. Mm-hmm. They want to see it. They want to look at it. I mean, we're putting out T-shirts after the show, right? And it's really, they're just supporting the show in the same way that they were supporting the show with a Patreon subscription. The big difference is a shirt is something that you can physically put your hands on and touch. And a television ad is kind of similar. You can say, oh, this is what everybody's going to see.
Well, it's production oriented, right?
Yeah.
And our entire society from the ground up is production oriented, right? That's the nature of capitalism. So even when it's completely irrational, people are going to privilege the product above actually knowing what's happening, above actual results. And I think it's because, like John said in the beginning of the episode, for these people and for the last, several decades, elections have been primarily aesthetic and politics have been primarily a networking exercise for the elite.
I mean, most things in life are networking exercises for the elite if you try hard enough.
Well, if you're good enough at it.
Yeah.
But no one attends. That's not real.
Yeah. But listen, this whole thing, when we're talking about this, it's a little bit frustrating because that line of thinking tends to leave out the people who are the most impacted by politics.
Yeah.
And who's paying to have conversations? We can talk statistically about how the thing that changes people's minds are are one-to-one conversations and contacts held over a long period of time. But just like many aspects of our society, the thing that's effective is not necessarily the thing that's the most profitable. Just look at our news for one example among many.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, I think that kind of production-oriented attitude and tangible attitude is rooted in sort of a bureaucratic addiction that exists within the academy and exists within number crunchers as such. When we get back, we will talk about that. For right now, we're going to take a quick 60-second break so everybody can like scratch their nose, and we'll be right back. And when we get back, we will be talking about whether we can trust polls. And at the end of the episode, stick around because we're going to be rating a bunch of terrible, terrible pictures of Thanksgiving food from best to worst.
They're really horrible. You might even want to leave early. It's really just sickening.
Mm-hmm.
Do not leave.
Okay, we're back. It was actually 30 seconds. I'm over you.
Yeah, you used the old logo instead of the new sequence that we've got. What happened?
Well, so apparently, even though we use the same program for all of our streaming in this particular instance, it just doesn't transfer between brands. So my choice was to do a 30-second one or switch all the way back to the regular Wonks branding. And I figured 30 seconds would be less jarring. So.
We gotta make some UNGIRL scene breaks. We'll do it. The show is only marching onwards, and the more of these shirts we sell, the more of these yearly subscriptions we get people bought into, the more that we can scale things up, be bigger, be better, etc. But anyway,
do things.
That's right.
Yeah. So we are back, and we're here to talk about polls. We're here to talk about nerd shit. We're here to talk about whether you can generally trust polls and like how they get conducted. I know one of the big things that people had their respective knickers wadded about.
Excuse me?
Had their respective knickers wadded about.
Oh, okay.
Like their panties were in a wad, Brandon.
Okay.
Yeah, I was being clever. They were upset because the exit polls deviated so significantly from the actual outcome of the elections, right? And that's like a perfect microcosm of a sampling bias. And so for people who don't like do statistics, like when we talk about statistics, I know this is going to get real nerdy and real
for all people. Okay.
For most people, yes.
Can you do this in an accent?
Unlike me, you're not a wonk and do belong here. Statistics are sort of as reliable as you have a large random sample. Because when you're doing statistics, you're never actually counting like every single person, right? That's not feasible. But what you can do and what we have found is if you have like 20 people, you can actually get reasonable statistical certainty. So when you have polls that are sampling like thousands and thousands of people, you have the numbers, but then you also have to make sure that you're really randomly getting those interviews or those data points. And that's really hard to do, actually, because the people who are most likely to respond are college students, because there's a lot of people who are just going to like hang up the phone the second they hear, I want to do a survey, because at the exit polls, the people who were physically going in to vote were heavily skewed Republican because there's some weird cult-like fealty pledge that you have to swear now to be a Republican, where you just refuse to wear a mask or pretend that nothing is happening altogether.
Leslie, have you ever been interviewed by a pollster? Have you ever been consulted for a poll?
Yes.
Okay. Was it
a couple
a political poll or something else?
Political polls in this election cycle. I got a few phone calls.
Rachel.
Mm-hmm. They didn't
Rachel and
well.
John, do you guys get polled regularly or ever?
I do, but honestly, I tend to gnaw them. Like I am so busy when somebody calls me asking me for like a poll. I'm like, nah, can't. Because it always like, they always say, oh, it'll just be a quick 5-minute poll. And then they ask you like 200 questions. And it's like, this was not 5 minutes. I hate you. So I always nod them and hang up. And I would imagine a lot of people who are similar to me do the same, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, here's the thing. People who do polls, just what you're saying, Rachel, the people who have time to do polls are people like me, old people who have nothing to do. And I don't talk to anybody most days all day until I do a podcast. So I'm like, yes, I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you about anything.
Well, and like there are certain things we know, right? Like we understand that these sort of demographic factors have an impact on people. John, do you answer these polls? Do you participate in these surveys? How much do you participate in this?
I think I'm someone who probably should be polled because I'm very politically active. I voted in every election. 19. I give fairly regularly. I am a huge mark for these people. I am, and I almost never get it. But also, who in 2020 is picking up their phone if they don't know the number?
Yeah, right. Well, that's the thing, right? Like, how many people are, you know,
people who have nothing to do.
Right.
Those are the people who will answer the phone for a random number. Old people like me.
How many people are getting hassled by debt collectors?
Or just robocalls. Like I get 3 a day.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, that's not a thing, you know? And so like, there's this sort of absurdity to it because when you are able to identify, you know, factors that confound your results, you should be able to, through an analysis of variance, control for those factors, right? So what that means is you do magical number crunching where you weigh your results accounting for these other factors that might influence them. Yes.
Listen, Rachel, is polling profitable? And if not, what are polling companies doing? What is their income?
It's profitable because statistics is inaccessible, like, and because the kind of science you have to understand to do like accurate data collection is pretty high level. Actually, you have to know a lot of things about people's behavior. That being said, like a lot of these larger polls are doing a lot to control for that, right? Like Pew, generally speaking, is trying to take these things into account. Most of the time we get these right, but there are also these factors that we might not predict happening, right? So like in 2016, the polls failed because they weren't accounting for these changes that were happening about like college students and the number of college students that were participating and stuff like that. And it just completely threw off the polls. And in reality, like, you know, Trump ended up winning. And it was because they hadn't anticipated that as a factor to control for. So they didn't do the magic number crunching to say like, okay, if we take this out of the equation, what do we have left?
John, what are your thoughts on the modern polling industry?
I want to know why I don't get a survey to fill out as a registered Democrat, even at a state level, about like 20 policy questions and state my favorability or unfavorability for it. Like, why doesn't that just happen like every October?
Now, have you guys gotten the emails that have surveys attached to them? Have you gotten
what?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Like a link you have to click to go somewhere else? No fucking way would I click that.
Well, but I have, and here's the thing that happens with all of them. The answers, or the questions are skewed in a way that would make the outcome incorrect because I can't tell you like exact questions, but the framing, it's all framed from a right-wing perspective.
That has a name, by the way. It's called a push poll. Yeah, and a push poll is a fake poll you send out that is designed to bias the person towards agreeing with you. So you would say like, you know, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you agree with the following statement? The dishonest Republicans should be completely kicked out of the Senate so they stop killing children, right? Yeah. And it's like, that's like, of course
What?
you're going to say I agree with that statement, right? But it also is reinforcing in your mind like that Republicans are evil and lying and killing kids, right? And by asking that question, even just framing it that way, you are sort of introducing this idea to somebody, and the more familiar that idea becomes, the more comfortable they become with it, the more they come to believe that idea and internalize it, right? And that's why you get those kinds of polls. They are designed specifically to trick people into believing the lies that are in them. And John, earlier, you actually talked about why they wouldn't be sampling you. And you're actually a really bad sample point because you are politically aware and most people aren't. Most people are voting on completely random things, like where they are in order, like alphabetically, whether they recognize the name or not, you know, what sort of existing feelings they may have about these people in the abstract as presented through the sort of nebulous filter of media and culture, right? And so they have these very sort of superficial understandings of what they're actually voting for, right? And these are the people who get like really excited about calling him Drumpf. That's that group of people, right? They're not really voting based on these deeper nuanced understandings. They're voting based on team allegiance. Anyways, that makes sense?
Yeah, I was like, you
Like,
said so much. I don't know.
I know, right?
We
Sorry. So,
anything?
like, one of the things that I secretly know a lot about is polls. And in fact, I think most of the presidential polls are kind of horseshit because of these sampling errors, because they are not accounting for things that they should be, like age and gender and income level at the same time. I could not find a single poll that was able to tell me, in like, generally speaking, what age of white woman voted for Donald Trump. Because I would be willing to bet that if you categorize this by age, there would be a pretty big age difference, generally speaking. But we don't have that information because they're not even testing for it, right? Because they don't actually care about having these better polls for like commitment to the truth reasons as much as they do for like they don't want to be seen as inaccurate, you know, and they are under so much pressure to produce so quickly and so frequently that, you know, the same people are overworked and it's just the system eating itself.
Could this be one of the factors accounting for, God, what a nerd, one of the reasons why we've been seeing that a lot of down ballot polls are more or less accurate, but the closer you get to like a federal election poll, they start to get really weird?
Yes. Well, yeah, think about how weird political media gets right before an election, especially before like a general presidential election. Like it gets real heated every single time, every 4 years, you know, and all of the really aggressive campaigning that happens around that has, you know, secondary effects. And that's like how you could see, for example, in Florida, which we keep bringing it back up because we'll bring it up forever, a $15 minimum wage passed overwhelmingly, and it went to Trump because they weren't actually reaching out to the right people.
And weren't they also doing like this dishonest stuff of like running third-party candidates with names that kind of sounded like the Democratic candidate?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. That happens all the time. That kind of stuff is like, I have been in electoral politics in Georgia long enough to tell you with 100% certainty, these motherfuckers are conniving. Like it is all on purpose. We all know these like, you know, cheat codes and hacks that you can do to artificially inflate the number of people that vote for you. And it's fucking cynical. It's grim. And it's what happens inevitably when you treat politics like a teleology that ends with an election. You know, the election itself is where the power comes from, as opposed to elections being a reflection of community building and power at the grassroots level.
Are elections a reflection of community building and power at the grassroots level?
No, not the way we're doing them, no. Because on both sides, you know, both parties are so in love with their own intelligence and their own cleverness that they would rather do all of these sort of cheat codey shortcuts that they think will artificially help them win than just win the hard way. And I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. A lot of it has to do with like, they're not getting paid enough either. They're overworked too. We're all sort of being ground up under this massive crisis and economic crisis and social crisis. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's no better way to build power than to build community, right? And there's an argument to be made, I guess, that like it's a good platform for talking about the issues and getting people on board with things. But even then, that's like a superficial degree of commitment. Like we want to be working on getting people who are committed to action, not just people who, exist that we might be able to influence their opinion a little bit.
So do you think with all of what we've said so far, do you think that things will change once the dinosaurs die?
Yes.
And that's what I think. I think we're the last gasp of Rome.
I hope so.
That's great. I just hope that Rome doesn't take the rest of us with it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and that ties into the discussion earlier. Like, you have this fossilized in power place with the Democrats where they didn't do any bench building, so everyone is either 87 or 27.
Right.
There's no middle.
Okay, thank you for saying that, John, because I've been paying attention, and like, okay, Kamala is around my age, but Gen X is really not represented.
No, they dropped out of politics.
Yeah, I told we're the un generation. We just went, fuck it.
Well, there's that. I mean, there's also like Xers coming on up. We're told over and over again, these people are going to retire. They've got great retirement benefits. They'll probably retire early and we'll just slot you in. And now, Chuck Schumer is the youngest powerful Democrat. And he's been in power longer than I've been alive.
Yes.
And so I definitely see a tactic forming on the progressive flank of the Democrats. And that tactic is to just kind of wait it out, build your soft power, get a lot of legislation ready to go, and basically just let the old people run out the clock. And I just think that's incredibly risky, but I don't know what else they can do.
Yeah. Well, and I mean
sort of what they're doing now, which is like take over the democratic machine politics of major cities. But then you run into the whole Senate thing. But it's something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. They have the upper hand. They have the upper hand in ways that we cannot possibly achieve using the same methods they use and fighting in the same arenas they fight in, right? Like, we need to start thinking of politics as a guerrilla exercise, not as, an honorable face-to-face war where, we meet at dawn across the battlefield. Like, that's not the kind of war we're fighting. That's not the kind of resources we have.
I disagree with you a little bit, Rachel, only to say that I think it is honorable to fight for what's right. And you fight however you need to fight for what's right. That's fair.
I said honorable, intending it to sort of have a very chauvinist and patriarchal connotation.
I knew what you meant.
But I agree with you that in reality, honor stems from, commitment to your values and fidelity, which, of course, the Democrats mostly don't have.
Well, it's a bit like what Ed Barilla said. The Democrats' only real core value is that they should win without having to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I look at the way that some of these issues that people have been yelling about and campaigning over, like police abolition, that stuff wasn't on TV at all.
Mm-mm.
I don't think that it was.
I can't imagine why.
Well, okay. Well, putting all that aside, I don't think anybody saw it enough to be turned off by it outside of Donald Trump campaign ads.
Mm-hmm.
So if they've got some statistical evidence from their cousins and uncles that work at the Trump campaign, that those ads were so devastating that they created bumps for Donald Trump. But we can look at the polling and say that the polling for Donald Trump has been pretty much locked in the whole summer. Like, you can look at just any bar graph and you can see that it spread when some of this COVID sunk in, and then it tightened a little bit after the convention. And for the most part, it's just been everybody had their opinion last year of how they were going to vote, and nothing's really changed.
Well, tying it, God, I keep saying that, but going back to polls, like, what does it mean when these policies like Medicare for all or police abolition or Green New Deal, when they poll so very well, and yet still aren't embraced by party leadership, even if we know polls are not great.
Well, popular.
Right. Well, and
popular-
like we have that with Medicare for all. We have that with legalizing or decriminalizing marijuana.
Yeah.
You know, we have that with campaign finance reform, with voting reform, all of these very popular things that they have no interest in actually doing.
Popular opinion has nothing to do with what gets on the news,
Yes.
what gets campaigned on, what gets enacted by the government. The two just have nothing in common.
Right. Well, and it's because in spite of the rhetoric around the way our government is structured, these people conceive of themselves as philosopher kings, right? They're using, you know, thousands of years old philosophy to justify literally recreating not just Rome, but the fall of Rome, right? And we have the exact same consequence. Like, systems create the same outputs every time.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So with that,
whenever posters start, whenever Twitter users start talking about the fall of Rome, you know, I'm just hardwired to do this. Okay, here we go. But
you're
there's
allowed to
something
talk
to be
about.
said for it, you know, like there are a lot of cultural similarities actually.
And actually, I posted it on my Facebook page while Donald Trump was campaigning in 2015. I posted that that's what we were watching.
when we come back, all of our heads replaced by, you know, marble statuette heads.
Yes.
That have been perfectly chiseled duplicates of ourselves, and they will look very ponderous, and John's will have just enough shadow, and it will be cute.
We'll see y'all in just a second.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back. Brandon, you have some terrible turkey pictures for us.
I do. I have pictures.
Mhm.
Listen, when we are talking about Thanksgiving, we're talking about a time that people don't like and that people don't enjoy. You know, you're there with your family, and you don't know these people. Like they're related to you, but you're not hanging out with them like all that throughout the year. So this holiday is supposed to be a holiday about gratitude. It's really just like a day to be surrounded by weirdos. The meals are very awkward, and the desserts are usually not hot. Once in a while, you have somebody that knows what they're doing and they buy a pie from the store. But once in a while, you get a relative that wants to freestyle. And in those situations, you get a Thanksgiving dessert fail. This is one of our lovely desserts, and all of this is from WCCX.com. And we've got a nice little turkey that looks like
Mr. Henke.
Let's say a carrot. It's a carrot that we're looking at here, and it's a brown, sticky-looking carrot. And it looks like it's on a bed of bacon. I don't know what's going on here, but it's not good. Why are there?
It looks like Mr. Hanky got dressed up for the Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving
they're
play?
doing.
Yes.
Yeah, for the Thanksgiving
Carnival.
play.
It looks like Mr. Hanke at Carnival.
And this is this is something that's in a package, and they're asking for money for it. Like, I don't know how.
That being said, I do think it's kind of cute. Like, I would probably buy that fully knowing that it looked like somebody dropped a log on it, just because I would find that funny, and it is kind of cute. Like, it's a cute intention.
You're an odd person. What about the intentions of this one? This just seems to be a dick.
I'm pretty sure somebody photoshopped and or did that on purpose. Like, no way.
So I think
those are veins. Come
on. Exactly. Those are veins. There's no way they were not aware of this one.
Why
they
are
don't add those details?
Why are the veins on that part? It just seems very uncomfortable. What's this? Now here's the positive of this.
A for effort.
Here's the positive of this one. It looks delicious. Like if you were to eat Now, I don't know what the googly eyes. Maybe you have to spit those out or whatever. But you've got some bacon. Now the cinnamon roll does look very dry. It's not looking
It does
good.
look dry.
What is the black thing?
I think all of that is bacon, and I think that's just a very burnt piece of bacon. This is a good concept, and it clearly just needed to be started over.
But doesn't that black thing look like a tiny turkey?
Yeah, actually, weirdly, it does.
Actually, it does. Yeah, you can see a little.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I
a
see it.
vulture.
A very snooty turdy.
And
Yeah,
then
or a vulture.
Why is there a candy corn?
I do.
I
also,
think it's a nose. Like maybe there was going to be a nose, and it's just blooped off, and no one cared enough. I don't know. Y'all tell me.
Yeah.
This is just feel. I know it's wrapped,
Hmm.
but this just looks like another one of those.
Lots of dick turkeys.
Yeah. Listen. There has to be another way to portray the turkey.
It is an awkward looking animal.
I'm just going to
Leslie.
comment on the fact that this one is peach and smaller.
Well, I think for this, in order to just make it all make sense, it's got to be one shape. You don't want to enunciate, and you want the turkey to be a little fatter. You want it to have a little more bulk. Yeah, you want a little girthier on the turkey, and maybe some bigger eyes, just so that it looks more, economical.
This is my favorite one yet.
Here's a turkey. It's got like some neck spikes.
Mhm.
Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. It's got, I don't know what is this stuff that's the chicken feet. Are these hot Cheetos? What's going on down here?
But this one at least looks like they were in on the joke.
Well,
This looks like a turkey that's ready to party.
Right? This turkey has been partying. Look at those eyes.
This is the morning after turkey. And do you see the angry face in the body?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
It's the morning after, but he didn't sleep because he was doing coke the whole night.
That's an Evil Dead turkey.
Here's, I think when you have one eye this way and one eye you just scooped out and had rolled, at that point you're in on the joke. You're like, this turkey is kind of not great.
Exactly.
So I'm with only a few adjustments, I can make this turkey look bad on purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
It's like when you lean into the failure, which is the correct way to do it. You should always lean in.
yeah.
Oh no.
Dude.
The candy corn bothers me in this one.
Well, the scale is weird. Either that's gigantic candy corn or a tiny little turkey.
Are y'all pro or anti candy corn? Just as a concept.
Like
Pro.
candy corn neutral, honestly. It's okay.
I'm pro. I love candy corn.
Yeah, I know it's a very divisive topic.
I also like candy corn.
What about you, John? You're the resident foodie.
I'm kind of with Lewis Black. It tastes like they made them all in like 1932 and have just been recycling them ever since. But you're allowed to like what you like.
That is very true. It does have a solid. Oh, that's looks like it's got a condom on. That's
Or it's
worse.
uncircumcised.
You've got to what this has taught me. What this has taught me is
No, it's the bunching at the base that makes it look like they're wearing a condom. You feel me?
That also looks uncircumcised. I'm sorry.
Like circumcision doesn't happen at the base of a penis.
Yes, it does.
Does it really?
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Listen, I'm not the wrinkly flesh-colored whatever. I'm not a connoisseur. I'm not the foodie on this one. Let me tell you. So
this one was cute. And looks like it was made by a child or with a child, which makes it cute and a success by default.
Yes.
What if an adult had made this and there wasn't a kid in the shot? Would you just dunk on them and just be like, "What is this?"
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yes.
I would just be like, first time.
I feel like if Keisha Lance Bottoms were to make a Thanksgiving
Did
cake,
anybody check on Keisha Lance Bottoms' family yesterday? Are they okay? How is their macaroni?
Did somebody order them some honey baked ham?
Right.
Get them some from Boston Market so they don't have to go through that no more. This seems unintentional.
I don't understand.
This feels faintly religious.
Yeah, it looks like it's for a group of people.
Like,
Yeah, no.
serious question. Who decided that was the way to do the turkey? Like, because clearly a lot of people are using this model.
Yeah, you see, I definitely would look at other turkeys before, making mine. I would look and say, where can I, how am I making these features, and how do I do this without it being, weird or phallic? And it just looks like for a lot of this that it's in the eyes. You just need a big set of eyes and the wobble, the little thing, and then that's it. Like, people can imply turkey. You don't have to draw on like the chest.
I just saw something in this one that's really disturbing.
What do we got?
Which one?
You have the one we're looking at. You have to have a pet to see it.
Lisa, Trisha, Scott.
Look at the turkey's face. You have to have a pet.
Oh, it looks like a red rocket.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh God.
Yes, I have seen male dogs before.
Do we see 4chan up here, or is this just another name?
No,
Jeter
that's
K.
John.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, John K. I see you. All right. It looks like we've run out. We've hit them all. We've just seen so many dicks.
Yeah, they're just kind of all dicks.
Yeah. And that's what people like. That's what they're here for. So listen, we're all rightly horrified. Luckily, we don't have to look at any of that again for another year. We can go back to being regular civilians. And are any of you buying anything for the holidays? Are any of you choosing to participate in the sales? Any of that? Or are we all in boycotting this festivity of gluttony and colonization? Like, or are we just broke and we don't want to spend money on extraneous stuff this year? Where are we on the woke meter?
I'm buying
Leslie.
a hand vacuum.
Okay.
Oh, hell yeah. Which kind?
Black & Decker.
Hell yeah.
Why do you need a vacuum? It just
I
seems
need a
like
hand vacuum.
to vacuum your hands.
No, it's because like there are places in the house where I need to vacuum, but it's too small for the big one.
Can you see dirt in your house?
I'm looking at dirt right now.
Okay, because I'm just looking at like the resolution down there. I just assume it all blends in.
Again, every light in my apartment is on.
All right,
blows my mind.
That's incredible. We might need to work on this operation. Rachel,
If that was my house, I would never find Tony. I would never be able to find him.
Leslie,
I'm sure that when you're physically there, your eyes adjust and it becomes easier.
Sure. Leslie, when you're doing the holidays, are you getting anything? Are you participating? And if not, why not?
We stopped doing holidays 2 years ago. When our first holiday, he's anti-Christmas. So I tried to do it once. He wasn't into it, so there's no sense. So I may buy myself some yoga pants, but that's about it.
Okay. Rachel, where can people give you yoga pants money?
Well, fuck yoga pants, because I have something way more exciting to share with everybody.
What do you got?
All of my friends and family this year, they're getting a very special gift for me.
Wow.
And it's not safe for wonks merch. Available now, in fact. You can go to our website right now and you can buy these shirts as a pre-order that we're getting printed, and it's very exciting. Right now,
I love
Friday.
it.
Normally $1,000, but Black Friday deal, of course, $25.
That's very fair. That's very reasonable.
Yeah.
You know, I insisted on the full $1,000. I was like, we gotta get paid, baby. And then Rachel was like, listen, $1,000 is a fair price for something of this quality. And you know, I understand that you can't just let people off the hook, but this is the opening of the store, and we're trying to be supportive of regular people here. And you know, everybody's got to put in a little bit for the holidays, and let's not take up their entire budget with just a shirt. Let's do something that's at a price point that's affordable for everybody. And I reluctantly agreed. Yeah. And so for the time being, take advantage of my generosity. you go to notsafemedia.com and you go to the news store. It's in shop, and you shop there. And you'll also find Into the Abyss. You'll find Hot Girl Agenda. You'll find A Time of Monsters. You'll find Sentai Trooper Club. You'll find Minecraft Mondays. You'll find the entire media conglomerate that we've got going on here. It's very punk rock. And everything is running with 95% efficiency. You'll be able to see everything and hear it, and it's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, we're still doing bug testing. It's new. If something goes wrong, email us at nsfwonks@gmail.com.
At Gmail. Yeah, let us know.
Shoot us an email. Let us know that there's something broken. We'll get on it. We are doing this ourselves.
We're doing this all ourselves.
Buying the shirt will help us do it better.
Yeah, Leslie.
After listening to all this and talking about yoga pants, I think I want to design yoga pants that say Into the Abyss.
I think that's a great idea.
Look for those coming out soon. I am sure we can make this happen.
Yeah, we can do that. We can make that happen. All right.
Good idea. I would wear them.
So listen,
John.
You actually unironically would. John.
I would, yes.
John, what do you want to plug? What's going on?
I'm going to plug myself. I can be found becoming increasingly angry and unhinged about electoral politics at Leavitt Alone, Leavitt alone. On Twitter, also links to my website because I do illustration and design work, and you could use it. And we're also in New York. New York DSA is doing a very big week of action around the Tax the Rich initiative, which is half like information wearing and half holding our newly elected supermajority accountable.
Well, if anybody is going to be able to pull something like that off, it's going to be New York. So I'm rooting for y'all.
John, what's it like to have bylines in various outlets? What does that improve the quality of your life at all?
No, what happens is that people now send me links to articles I've written saying, I think you'd really enjoy this.
Oh, that's fun.
That sounds fun.
That's fun.
At least they know my taste.
That's right.
You know, you're seen. Money can't buy that.
And money won't buy that.
Money won't
they
buy
don't
that.
Pay you.
Mm-hmm.
But it can buy some shirts.
It
Money
sure
can buy shirts very easily. So think about it.
Buy the heck out of some shirts.
Buy the heck out of some shirts, y'all.
Money can be exchanged for goods and services.
You know, we have worked with this printer before. They're awesome. They're called East Atlanta Copy Center. They are a union-run shop, which is great. We are supporting labor. You know, when we buy from them, the shirts are really high quality. Like, I have a couple from previous printings. They do great work. And we're really excited about them. And just generally speaking, like, it's cool. It's cool that these things are going to exist in real life now.
I love it. That's right. We're real. We're real, baby.
We have merch.
That's right.
You can adorn your body with things that say "Not Safe for Wonks" on it, and help us get more people to know who we are.
That's right. All right, we've shilled enough. People get it.
Yes.
Listen, we're out of here.
We are.
Wait a sec. This is your show, Rachel.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
It's fine. That's why I need feminism. That's why the show exists in the first place. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. I'm going to
see y'all on Monday. Who do we have on Monday?
Guess who we've got on Monday? Aaron Thorpe is out of the hospital. Well, actually,
yes.
Aaron Thorpe may still be in the hospital, but hospitalized or not, Aaron may be broadcasting live from Grady. We don't know. But
he'll be with us on Monday.
We're going to all chop it up because he's eager to get back in the saddle. And so you'll hear from the man and the myth and the legend. It'll be a good time.
Yeah. Also, we've been keeping in touch with Aaron. He's doing okay. He's mostly just bored and in pain.
Collapsed lung, not having a good time.
No, although they did take the tube out today, so his lung has reinflated, which is good. So, he's healing and getting better. And we are very thankful that he was not, more severely injured or worse killed.
Yeah.
And we are really looking forward to bringing him back on Monday to say hey to everybody and sort of, I think, prove to the world that the CIA will not kill him.
Yet.
Not yet.
Quite so easily. They'll have to try.
True.
It's like with Castro. Multiple attempts.
Multiple attempts.
All right. Well, this has been Not Safe for Once presents UNGIRL. And it was great. Have a good weekend, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Hey, do y'all want to hear my favorite joke about feminism, by the way?
Yeah.
That's not